Hey everybody, welcome to the Addiction Unlimited podcast, where you get to learn everything you want to know about addiction and recovery. I'm your host, Angela Pugh, co-founder of Kansas City Recovery, life coach, and recovering alcoholic. To learn more about me, you can listen to episode 0 on your podcast app or find us on the web at addictionunlimited.com. Hey everybody, welcome to the Addiction Unlimited podcast. I'm your host, Angela Pugh. We are recording late at night in Los Angeles this evening. I am at the KTLA studio with Courtney Friel. This is going to be a great episode, you guys. I'm really excited to share this story. So let's take a second and welcome Courtney to the show. Hi, Courtney.
Angela, thank you so much for having me. And
thank you for doing this in the cool studio.
Well, I'm on a hamster wheel, so I'm always going. So it helped that you could come here in between my shows because I'm anchoring tonight, and that's what I do for my profession. I'm a news anchor / reporter here in LA.
Nice. So tell the listeners a little bit about you and a little bit of your story before we get into details. Give us a basic rundown.
Well, my sobriety date is really cool. I didn't plan it. It's 09/09/09.
Nice.
So I'm coming up on
10
years sober, God willing. And I love being sober.
Yeah,
so
me too.
When you asked me to do this, I take any opportunity I can to talk about it and
spread
the good word.
And I didn't even know that, but like I just find people who look like they have fascinating stories, right? Or do unique things and are open about their recovery. That's the important thing to me. Like I love it when people are willing to talk about it. So I just really appreciate you for having the courage to do that and really just be open about your journey, because I feel like that's what helps more people.
It's interesting because so many people do say, wow, I can't believe you are open about it with your job. And I can't believe, you put that out there. And it's like, first of all, as we just talked about, my last name's Friel. I keep it Friel. I'm very, very TMI all the time. I mean, I'm self-deprecating. Like I'll share whatever.
Right.
And so why would I hide the most important thing in my life?
Yes.
And I'm proud about it. So of course I'm going to share that. And I think once you get sober, you realize, oh wait, it's not just all about me. And I maybe want to find my purpose in life. And if that's to help other people, then great. So how are you going to help people if you're not sharing it?
Right.
Yes.
Right. I think too, like what I run into, especially doing this as my work, right? Working in the addiction field, there's so much shame around it. Mm-hmm. We talk about it all the time, break the stigma, shatter the stigma, all that stuff. And I feel so grateful, literally like every day of my life, that I have zero shame for being an addicted person. It's like I never felt bad for being an alcoholic. It was never weird to me. It was never uncomfortable. I was like, well, this is just who I am. Like, why would I feel bad about who I am?
Well, and the thing is, for every one of me, there's a bunch of me out there that are living right now using. So it's like
suffering.
It's like,
totally.
wouldn't my boss want a sober person who's out about their recovery instead of knowing that like half their staff is on drugs?
Right.
I mean, like, I don't know.
At least they have somebody to go to for help. You're right here.
I just am open about sharing it. So if I can help just one person every time I do one of those posts. And it's interesting because I didn't put it out there on my social media until I had 6 years. Mm-hmm. And ever since then, I get questions all the time in my DMs about, how did you get sober? Do you have any advice? How do you stay sober? So that's why when I realized there is a big need for this. A lot of people head online because of the stigma. They maybe don't want to go to a 12-step meeting in town for the risk of like being seen by someone who might know them. But it's easy to hide behind a computer and look for help and hear people's stories.
But I think too, like a big part of, I certainly have heard this over the years in AA too. When we start recognizing we have a problem and we really start exploring that, I feel like one of the first things we do is go on this like self-help rampage. Like everybody's trying to figure it out on their own before they commit to going to treatment or going to AA, and that's the part where I think online is super helpful, but at the same time, it's isolating, you know, and one of the worst things I can do as an addicted person is isolate. Like I need to be connected.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't think I really started my self-help stuff until after getting sober and then after getting divorced. But I know I was always very interested in hearing why people were sober after I would badger them. Right. I'd be at a party. Well, are you on antibiotics? Do you have to work? Are you pregnant?
Right.
Why aren't you drinking?
Why aren't you drinking? Yes. So how old were you when you first started to recognize you had a problem?
I think I've known all along. My high school friends were like, we could vote you class drunk. I was always the hot mess.
Yeah.
Then I got sober at 29. So it was kind of like realizing, all right, it's not cool to be dancing at bars with your bra on your head after 30. And at the time I was working at Fox News and I was the youngest person to go there at 26. So a lot of the people that I hung out with were much older than me. And I just found myself blacking out all the time and seeing videos or pictures of myself that I didn't remember in like awful shape. And I kind of realized, I'm running into these really professional people and looking like a train wreck and then not even remembering seeing them that night. And I just thought like, I'm going to get in trouble buying Coke from some shady dealer and then I'm going to get arrested and lose my job. Or it was right around the time Heath Ledger and DJM died. So I thought, okay, well, I don't even care. Like I'll probably just OD in my sleep or something. So I knew it was kind of wrapping up my addiction, which drugs of choice are alcohol, cocaine, and pills, especially living in New York City towards the end. And then I wasn't quite ready to stop, but I ended up with this impromptu intervention and 7 people surrounding my bed and convincing me to go. And I said yes. And I knew that it would be the best thing that I could do for my life. And I knew in that moment, and I knew that I deserved more. I mean, did I want to stop drinking? No. Who wants to stop doing that? Right. Even when we're sick and tired of being sick and tired, we still like have fun moments. And I had a ton of fun when I was partying. But now I did for a long time. Finally, I mean, it took me a while to like realize, oh my gosh, am I ever going to have fun again in sobriety? Yeah. The first few years you feel that way. And then now I'm just like, I have no desire to ever have a sip of alcohol again for the rest of my life. I don't need it. All the places I've traveled all around the world, I have never been like, oh, I wish I had a glass of wine in my hand or something. You just enter a new level of, and it's crazy because I couldn't do anything without being drunk. And now I can do everything.
Isn't it so hard to imagine like your old life? I think about it all the time. Like, God, what was I thinking? Number one, like, how did I even talk myself into thinking any of that was normal? You know, because it was crazy. My behavior was crazy.
But don't you think, I mean, and look, I don't judge, I don't preach, I don't care what anyone else does. I feel like the college experiment with drinking and stuff, it's almost a rite of passage. And that's why when the consequences start getting more severe, then it's an issue. But the 30-year, there's a lot of people I feel like who get sober around 30 because it's one of those like, all right, I'm a legit grown up now. I got to grow up like if I'm going to have kids or whatever.
Yeah, I was 33.
Yeah, it's a good time to get sober.
Yeah. I think you have a little more self-control at that point also. Mm-hmm. And I could see things more big picture. Like in my 20s, I could never see anything big picture. It was almost like the end of the week was the farthest I could think. Mm-hmm. And what will I be doing in 3 days? Like that was big picture for me in my 20s, you know?
The thing with me is that I was always very work hard, play hard, because I knew at a young age in 3rd grade that I wanted to be a news anchor and a reporter. So I would like lock myself in the school TV studio till 10 o'clock at night, all through, you know, middle school, high school, college. And I, you know, moved to Tennessee at 23 and was like the main anchor, reporter, one man band, like 20 jobs for $5 an hour. And I was constantly like putting my reel together and trying to get ahead, and just my whole life was work and partying. Yeah. And now I'm able to just stop and smell the roses and be present and just let life come as it happens, and not worry about, I mean, part of it is because I'm in a great job and I am doing it, but like I cover horrible things all the time.
Right.
And so even tonight we just had a high-speed chase, and it ended in like this crazy crash with an innocent person getting hurt. And I'm like, I have such anxiety about this because, and I was like, how long do I want to do this for? Because
it's hard.
It's so much death and just bad things all the time.
It's the same thing working in addiction too. I was talking to a friend of mine about this earlier today, and he was saying, he's like, I couldn't do what you do because it's so, like, I don't have a job that I leave at the office, you know, like it goes with me everywhere all the time on my phone. And I own, sober living houses. So it's like I have families and I have 17 guys to wrangle on a daily basis. And you have a sense of responsibility, you know, and sometimes it's really sad. Sometimes it's really sad. Yeah. Or they just can't get it. Like I almost feel worse for the people, probably partially because I remember being stuck in that space where I knew I needed to quit, and I was trying so hard to hang on to it because I couldn't fathom my life without it. Yeah. You know, and that for me was the most miserable part of my drunk life. And it was at the very end because I was so out of control, but I just could not let it go. It seemed so scary.
Yeah. And it's tough too when all of your friends and everyone is drinking and partying too. And in New York City,
well, that's all I knew.
Everyone did that. Right. Yeah. And that's all I knew too. And so I just was realizing, okay, this is not cool, especially with the job that I have, a high profile job. And one of the big things for me was I was on a train coming back from a party in the Hamptons at like 8:00 at night or something. And I'd been doing coke and drinking all day and was already on my Ambien and Xanax and taking pills because I was like, oh, I'm going to go out when I get back into the city. But I had my strapless bra on my head, and my friend was interviewing me about being like a pageant queen. Right. And so I didn't even remember that we took that video. And a week or two later, she's like, oh my gosh, look what I just found. And she sent it to me at my office. And I watched the video and I was appalled. I was like snorting and slurring, couldn't even understand me. I was flopping all over the place. I was like grabbing other people. Like I remember thinking I was so cool in that video when we were on the train, like, oh, people must recognize me or whatever. Cause it's all about you when you're addicted. And then I saw the look of horror in those people's faces about what a drunk asshole I was being. I was appalled. And that was it's funny because I actually have that video now, and I showed it to my boyfriend today because it was the first time he's seen it. He's known about it, but I showed it to him, and people I have shown, we laugh about it because it's not that bad, or it's like, oh, I was I was like having so much fun. But I'm glad that I felt that way, obviously, in initially seeing it, because
I think it's easier too once it's that far behind you. You know, like that many years ago, I don't feel so embarrassed. Like, yeah, it happened, dude. There's nothing I can do.
But it's so amazing being sober. I love it. I love it so much, and it's so great to just be like, I don't need any of that stuff.
Yeah,
it takes a minute to get comfortable, I think, in your own skin.
Yeah.
I remember during rehab, my sister got married, and it was my overnight trip that I got to go home to Pennsylvania and like everyone was dancing, and I was like, I dipped out really early. Yeah. But now it's so freeing being able to just go to a book signing or some party or whatever, and you're there for like an hour or two max, and then you can dip out and do whatever you want.
It is weird how much easier it is to live as a sober person. You know, like I never would have guessed that, but it is like I don't have to worry about anything. Well, I'm not lying to every single person I see.
You don't have to worry about how you're going to get home, because I mean, I didn't when we were drinking, we didn't have Lyft or Uber or anything. And it was like, for me, it was like a committed thing. Like I had to find my drugs, and then it would be a huge hangover, and then I wouldn't eat for like a day, and then I need a pizza.
It's its own full-time job.
It really is. And I think that's why when I got sober, I didn't know what to do with myself, because it was so much time. It was like Groundhog's Day over and over again. I'm like, and then you realize how much time and effort you spent on getting your drugs and partying and going out.
So crazy. And I was a bartender. So I lived here in LA my whole 20s, right? And I was a bartender, and I continued bartending into my sobriety because it's the only job I ever had. It's the only thing I knew how to do. I hadn't gone to college yet, right? I didn't go to college till I was 4 years sober. I was 37 years old. So I had no education. I had never had a regular job in my life. I had zero skills. Like, I was unemployable. And I always say, like, I'm much more feral than domesticated. So you could not, like, give me a job like in an office building and tell me to go there every day. Like, I would rather die, you know. I just couldn't do it. I could never do it my whole life. I couldn't do it now. So thank God for entrepreneurship. Saved my ass. But but yeah, so when I got sober, I just didn't know what to do, you know, and I was like, all I've ever done is bartend. At the same time, in my 20s, being out here in LA, I had always worked next to other bartenders and cocktail servers that were sober.
Oh, okay.
So
you probably
I
became a better bartender by being sober.
Way better. And I didn't spend all my money on drinks, which is helpful. But it was also like, it was this weird motivation too, because I would see all these people at my bar, like, getting drunk, and I would see, like, the change in them. Yes. And I would think, like, gosh, everybody is so cool when they come in and they're just sober and you're having great conversation and it's really fun. And then you get like 4 drinks in, 5 drinks in, and like,
annoying.
Dudes are getting creepy at that point. You know what I mean? Like, they want to flirt with you, and it's like, no, dude, I'm not the one. And, you know, girls are getting louder. And I love to always look at people and be like, gosh, I'm so glad I wasn't like that. But really, I know I was. I was exactly
the other
like
thing,
that.
I mean, outside of a bar setting, I feel like most people don't have issues with alcohol. Like, if you do go to a book sign in LA, New York, there's tons of like book signings or something. So in the beginning of the night, it's like, I don't see that many sloppy people, but I know that I was like instantly that sloppy person, because I would just like chug my vodka soda with lemon, with, you know, 3 sips, and then on to the next, and then on to the next, and then on to the next.
Like a crazy person. That's how I drank. So you went to treatment. How long were you in treatment?
I did 28 days. And then I did what they told me to do, which was 3 months of outpatient after, when I got back to the city. So I was in New York at the time, and Fox was really cool about me taking the time off. But when I came back, it was challenging because I had been on the air like 5 to 6 times a day on all the different shows for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
And then I guess my bosses, you know, they were like, well, we're going to take it easy on her. And there was some management shifts, and like, so they had to rearrange like producers, because I was MIA for about 6 weeks. And so that was really extra difficult, because I came back and I felt like I was sitting on the bench and not really working at my job. So my 2 passions of drinking and work, the only things that went on in my life ever before were suddenly gone. So it was, I mean, you hear all the time, like, sometimes it gets worse before it gets better. But thankfully I didn't have any legal issues to deal with. Like, I would hate to get sober and then be like, oh my gosh, I have to go to jail now or something.
That's exactly what I had.
Really?
So yeah, my final, what ultimately got me sober was not, you know, in any way hurting myself. That didn't seem to bother me. But I was in a car accident. I crashed at 70 miles an hour on the freeway, and I hit another car. And
driving drunk?
Mm-hmm. And I had a moment where I thought I killed the guy, because I couldn't figure out like how he would have lived, right? I hit him at 70 miles an hour, and it was just kind of a mess. I mean, obviously it was a mess. It was horrible, but it was kind of in that moment that I was like, whew, okay. Like, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing.
The cops came, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it was a disaster.
Did they give you a breathalyzer?
I was the only one hurt. Like, the guy that I hit was fine, because he was also going 70 miles an hour. It's not like I hit him at 70 and he was parked, you know? I don't know anything about my accident. Like, I don't remember any of it, but I had been in a fair amount of trouble already. So the city actually came after me, and I had a full-blown trial. Like, it was pretty crazy. It was pretty crazy. And I got sober right after my accident, and my trial didn't happen. I was 10 months sober when my trial happened. Okay. And I just assumed I was going straight to jail. Like, I didn't even have a ride home from court, because I knew I was just going to jail. And I figured I was probably going to do 4 to 6 months, something like that. It did not work out that way, luckily. Just really for technicalities more than anything, they did not do a breathalyzer on me because I was hurt. I was the only one injured. The problem was I had so much alcohol in my system, my blood wouldn't clot. And so I couldn't stop bleeding. And I had face planted my steering wheel. So my nose was busted and it was just pouring blood. Like it just wouldn't stop. It was insanity. And my whole entire trial literally revolved around the amount of blood I lost. And I almost bled to death in the police car, and they kind of had to shut everything down and rush me to the emergency room because I wouldn't stop bleeding. And it was crazy, but they didn't have that, I guess, proof, right? Okay. Because they didn't breathalyze me. They didn't take my blood. I don't know how they didn't. It was everywhere. But yeah, it was just kind of crazy. But I had the weight of that, like knowing my trial was coming my whole first year. I mean, I was 10 months sober, and I just thought about it. And I think really, thanks to the program, thanks to AA, I really just reached a place of acceptance and surrender, right, where I was like, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. Mm-hmm. There's nothing I can do about it. So you know what? Hopefully I won't have to go very long. The time will go fast. Maybe I can help people while I'm there. I don't know. But I was fully prepared to just do whatever I had to do.
You're also lucky that you didn't kill that guy or
Oh
yourself.
my gosh. Are you kidding me? It was so terrible. And all I could think about, like, I only remember bits and pieces, like after my accident, standing on the side of the freeway. And the one thing that kept going through my head was like, I have to call my mom and tell her I just killed somebody. Like, I have to call my mom and basically tell her, like, I'm a murderer. Like, how do you tell your mom that, And it was such a terrible moment. But at the same time, it was defining. It was defining. Yeah. And it was one of my greatest moments of clarity. It really was, because it's when I realized that I had some other purpose for living. Because I couldn't figure out why I was walking away from the accident either, and I was hurt, but I wasn't hurt nearly as badly as I probably should have been. But it really was in that moment that I was like, okay, obviously there's something else I'm supposed to do. And now it's just about figuring out what that is, and I didn't know that I would work in the addiction field. I had no idea. But yeah, I knew that I had some other purpose outside of drinking. And it's sad that it took that much. It's sad that I didn't have some level of self-love enough that I wanted to stop earlier.
Well, everyone's bottom is different. I always think I had a pretty high bottom, and then I'll meet people that definitely didn't party as hard as I did. Right. But it doesn't matter. It's like if you find out you're an all or nothing person. I'm like that with candy or with wheat thins or everything. In relationships.
Yes.
Like I just need to know, like, are we in it? Are we not in
right.
it? Like if I eat a bagel in the morning, then my whole day is ruined. I have a very bad relationship with carbs, and then I'll be like, okay, well, I'm just going to like eat all the carbs that there are, and then I'll start again tomorrow. And when I'm limiting the carbs, I seem to do better because it's an all or nothing thing. It's an addictive personality. That is how my brain is wired.
For sure.
That's how it was with drinks, Coke, pills. I just wanted more.
Yeah. I always say that too. If I do something and I like it, I want to do it more, regardless of what it is.
Right.
So, I mean, that can be people, it can be food, it can be whatever. But yeah, you're exactly right. Like I'm in or I'm out. And if I'm in, I'm all the way.
Right.
To the extreme.
That was the thing with dating. Like I didn't like the not knowing. Like, are we, like, what is our title? Even though you're not supposed to ask a guy, like, what are we?
Right.
But like that whole like wishy-washy. And that's why when you do get in something that's so naturally flowing and easygoing, then that's the only relationship worth having. But it's nice to just be like, okay, so good. Like I'm in this. I can focus on you. I don't have to worry about like my Bumble profile or whatever like, it is. And I'm a relationship person, I guess. Like I'm just happy. I'm happy and happier in a relationship.
Were you still married when you got sober?
Yes, so let's see. I mean, I was with my ex-husband for 12 years. And then, I mean, I had my 2 kids in sobriety. We got divorced when I had 5 years sober. So I try to keep my ex out of the conversations. I have a great amicable divorce. But I mean, one of the factors, I think a lot of people do get divorced after they get sober if the other person doesn't, and you're not sharing that journey and with like the self-help recovery world. And that's why my current boyfriend has 17 years sober, and it's so natural to just be able to be in that, like go on vacation and not have to worry about.
Yeah, you don't even have to think about it.
Because either people like have issues with the alcohol that you're dating, or they're like, they're normies and they just don't understand.
Yeah.
So they're like, well, wait, can I drink it funny or not? So it's nice not to just.
I just had that conversation with a guy like 2 weeks ago, and I was like, it's fine. Like, you can have a drink. The only thing I really care about is that I don't have a drink.
Right. But see,
I don't want to be on a date with somebody who's going to overdrink, right? Because that's not fun either.
But I think a lot of people project, and that's why my whole message is I want to show people that like sober is sexy, sober is cool.
Yeah.
Like you can still have a great time, because I think a lot of people project that you're going to be judging them the whole time on how much they're drinking.
Totally.
Or that a lot of people think we're angry and bitter because we can't
drink.
We can't do drugs.
Yes.
And, or we're just boring. The main thing, I think people just think you're boring.
Because everybody asks, everybody's like, what do you do now? And I'm like, I do everything.
Yeah.
Like whatever I want. Way more than I was
doing.
Because before, like, I couldn't plan anything. I definitely couldn't follow through. You know, like I was a mess. So
always too hungover.
I was always just
things,
talking.
flaking.
I was just talking. Like, I want to do this. I want to go here. I want to travel here. But I never did anything. Like now I do whatever I want. Always.
Yeah, it's so freeing.
It's amazing.
That's one of the main things I love about being sober, and also just living life on life's terms. Like I'm proud of the fact that I've been through some hard stuff in sobriety and didn't relapse. And one of the things that I'm going through right now is like I have I've had a headache since August of 2017. It's never let up. It just varies on the pain scale of 1 to 10.
Yeah.
And for the past like 6 weeks, it's been hovering really high. And when I was in rehab, they gave me a form that had like 10 reasons on it. It said, what is the number one reason that you would relapse? Like death of a parent, you get fired from a job. And I put pain because I had already had a headache for 3 years when I was 20, 21, and 22. The same exact thing I'm going through now. It's probably hormonal. But, and I developed a serious pain pill addiction because muscle relaxers were the only thing that helped me. But I was in college and I could just sleep all the time,
right?
And get messed up on them and go to the school infirmary, get my weekly shots. And I was slept a lot, or I partied, and then I would just go to class and barely made it through for those 3 years. But now I'm a mom. I'm on air. I can't be slurring on muscle relaxers. But the point of the story is that I've been having that pain for almost 2 years and I have not relapsed. And I don't want to be on muscle relaxers. Like I don't want to. I don't want to have anything altered because I love being sober and I love being present.
Yes. I feel exactly the same way. I don't really like to take anything.
And all you need is like Advil in most cases.
Right. And there is, to me, that's one of the greatest pieces of comfort and relief and pride even in my sobriety, because I don't need to escape now, right? Just like you're saying, life on life's terms. So when something in life happens, I have the strength to cope with it and deal with it. And I love that because that's the thing I was embarrassed about when I was a drunk. I was embarrassed that I couldn't cope with my problems. Like I had to turn to alcohol for everything. And that was embarrassing to me. It wasn't that it was alcohol. It's just that I couldn't cope,
I think that I didn't know that I was doing that I was self-medicating all the time.
Yeah.
I think it took a lot of therapy and introspection after getting sober that I looked back and realized,
that's what you're doing.
I was really bullied all, my younger school years, and that I internalized that pain, and my family like swept feelings under the rug and we didn't talk about feelings, and I don't really like feelings. And so when I started drinking, then that pain of those bullies like made me not care about them and made that go away. And then, if I was miserable in a marriage or something like that, it's like, I drank for that. And and that's why I see people getting into the trap about like with starting young in college and stuff. Like it's just kind of like a rite of passage. Everyone's doing it.
Like the norm.
People may not know that they have a problem if everyone else is doing it, but it's when things start happening where like your wife's going to leave you or your husband's going to leave you because they want you to get help, or you start getting fired from jobs, or legal issues.
Right.
Like remember when Lindsay Lohan was like, I don't have a problem. But it's like, dude, you keep having these legal issues. Like that means you have a problem.
Yeah. This
like,
is not an accident.
You have lost your privilege. Like you need to like do a year sober for sure, at least just based on that.
Right. Yeah. When you start having negative consequences and you are still hanging on to it, that's one of the things I always say, like, for me, I knew I had an abnormal relationship with alcohol because I was just a little more attached to it than other people were.
Well, let me ask you something, because I'm sure your Instagram people ask you questions too. So,
Yes.
and I'm sure you get like, how do I know if I'm an alcoholic or not? So what is your answer to that?
So, okay, my answer is a little different too, because there were a lot of things like when you go online and Google that question, you'll find a ton of information and quizzes and whatever. But a lot of things that they classify were things that didn't fit me. And I was a hardcore daily drinker, but I didn't black out. I mean, I could count on one hand how many times I blacked out my whole drinking career. That just was not a part of my story. And when I did black out, it was typically for 30 or 40 minutes. It was never like I blacked out entire nights. That just wasn't my story. I didn't drink in the morning. I didn't sit at home and drink alone. So for me,
you probably were still paying the bills. You weren't like homeless on the streets.
Not at all. I made a shitload of money. I mean, I was a bartender in Hollywood and Beverly Hills. You know what I mean? I had a ton of money. So yeah, I didn't fit the mold in so many ways. So what I realized is, like I said, I realized my relationship with alcohol was different than my friends.
Okay.
So at the end of the night, when everybody would leave and they'd be like, okay, see you later, call me tomorrow, I would be like, why are they going home? Like, we could drink more. Yeah. I also knew that it wasn't super normal to drink every day, but I was a bartender. Everybody I knew drank every day. Like, some people say, oh, alcohol is so much a part of my lifestyle or so much a part of my job. And I'm like, no, dude, I was a bartender. It was my lifestyle, you know, but I knew that drinking every day wasn't the norm because, again, so many of my friends weren't doing that. You know, a lot of my friends weren't drinking every day. And I also started to see the progression of it and how I shifted where, like, I used to go out with my friends and have fun and maybe we would have some drinks. And then we were going out to drink. And then I wouldn't do anything that didn't involve drinking. And I could definitely feel like my decision making was really shitty, especially like in dating, picking boys, right? I could see that my self-esteem was plummeting. But it's like by the time you realize there's an issue, it already has you. Like you're already trapped at that point, you know? So yeah, for me, it was really just recognizing that my relationship with alcohol was different than other people's was. I wanted to spend more time with it. I wanted to be around it more. I thought about it more. I was either planning it or doing it or inviting people to do it. Like my life kind of revolved around it.
See, my answer to that question is, I say, well, the authorities on the matter say you're supposed to be able to quit drinking for 1 year. And I was like, which obviously is ridiculous.
Right.
I was like, I say 1 month. I was like, clearly I have an issue. Like, oh my God, quitting for a year, maybe a month. But like, you're supposed to be able to quit for 1 month or 1 year, and it's no big deal. That apparently means that
okay, but
you're
here's
normal.
the problem, because almost every alcoholic I know did that a couple times. I did that a couple of times. And I call it walking down time.
Okay.
I could walk down that time. If I told myself I was going to stop for 30 days, I can walk down 30 days, no problem. Almost just on a matter of stubbornness. You know what I mean? But what happened for me at the end of 30 days is I was sitting there going, okay, so here's my little addicted brain talking to me. Okay, well, I know I can control it now because I just went 30 days without it.
Right.
So now I know I don't have to drink every day. I'll just drink on holidays and special occasions. So I would talk myself into drinking again. And it just took me a lot to realize I couldn't control it. And I
so
think
then
that
maybe
was
the authorities on the matter are right about it being a year.
Yeah, right.
Not a month.
Well, if you could do it without it bothering you, like it didn't bother me to quit for a month. And one time I quit for 60 days too. And it really didn't bother me. It's not that challenging for me to not have any. It's moderation that's the challenge for me.
When you start.
Once I start, right. So that's the other thing I would say.
I was always like, what's the point of having one? Like, why even have the calories?
No point.
Right? Like, no,
I can have a water.
You drink to get messed up.
Yes, I drink for effect. One is not going to touch it.
And it's interesting because when I was pregnant, I was sober. I was pregnant. I was in Italy for my baby moon. like about 6 months sober, so it was visible. I was amazed by how many people I met that were like, oh, you can have one glass of wine. You can have one glass of wine. Like they totally push drinking when you're pregnant. But my answer to that was, what's the point of having one?
Yeah.
Like, no, I would want the whole bottle.
For sure.
So
for sure. Yeah. One's not going to touch it. I can have a water or a Diet Dr. Pepper.
Well, but that's the thing. Like my brain is programmed differently. Like I don't understand people who say, I'm going to have a juicy steak and have a red Pinot Noir,
right? Yeah.
That $500 bottle of Pinot Noir because it's gonna my palate's gonna go, together, and then I'm gonna sip it, and not even like the dinner's gonna be over, and like the people that you see drinking and they haven't even drank the whole glass of wine through the whole dinner. I'm like, what? I would have been on like
it's so weird.
My 5th drink by now.
Yeah, I had somebody say to me the other day that they had gone through a breakup and they were really struggling. And she goes, I mean, I think there were some nights I drank a whole bottle of wine. And I was like, what?
That's no big deal.
Yeah, like a bottle of wine. Like I think that's only 4 glasses. Right. Or 4.5 glasses. Like I'm pretty sure I had 4 drinks in the shower. Like that was pregame for pregame.
Right. I would did you do this? My roommate and I in college we would drink Slim Fast with vodka in them.
Nice.
It was our dinner. Nice. / pregame.
No, I actually kind of quit eating. At some point, I quit eating food, and it wasn't intentional.
What's that called? A drunkorexic or something like that?
Oh, that's good. I haven't heard that.
You only drink your calories.
Yeah, and I really didn't do it on purpose, but again, I was a bartender, so my schedule was the opposite, right? So I was up all night and slept most of the day. And when I would get up in the afternoon, I also was a smoker back then. And when I would get up in the afternoon, I swear, I almost had a worse smoking hangover even than a drinking hangover. And like, I just felt like my throat was on fire. Like there was no eating anything, or drinking. Like I couldn't even drink water. Like it would take me a while.
I just realized, like, I was like, oh, I wonder why my acid reflux, like I haven't had a problem with that. I had crazy acid reflux all the time when drinking. And it's for the past 9 years, it's been great. Minus being like crazy pregnant twice, you get acid reflux then, but
right. What would you say is your hardest thing you have been through in sobriety, and what coping skills did you use to keep from relapsing?
My divorce, even though it was like kind of amicable, I was mourning the death of a 12-year relationship, the death of a family. So I have a son and a daughter, and they were 2.5 and 3.5 at the time. And I think too, it was during my years 5 and 6 where they say that's when all the feelings and the crying happens.
Yeah.
But I had my entire adult life, I'd been in a relationship because I'd gone from like boyfriend to boyfriend to husband. And I didn't know how to do anything on my own because I was just like so codependent. And so being alone in this city, and then like I was like, well, I don't just want to date someone to be with someone. Like I really want to be alone and have these experiences. But oh my God, I could not go into a grocery store. For some reason, I was like a trigger. I would just like start crying in there all the time. I mean, I would be anchoring the news every weekend and feel like this lump in my throat of tears that were like, I would get to my car and I would just drive home and I would bawl my eyes out. Like, I just took it really, really hard. And each year got better, so that I think by like year 4, I didn't even remember that it was my anniversary of my divorce or whatever.
Right.
But as for how I coped, I mean, it's how I cope with anything, because I have lots of stressful days at work where I'm like, whoa, this is heavy. Like the Las Vegas shooting massacre, like it broke during my show and I cried on air about it like a week later. I was in Vegas. I mean, I was immersed in that story for 2 weeks, and I like had a mental breakdown about it. And I was like crying on my floor for 3 hours. Like, do I call the crisis hotline at work? No, they're not going to do anything. So I just, I'll eat like some pizza or some pasta. That's my comfort food. Right. I'll jump in the shower and then I'll cry and I will go to sleep, because I know that I will have a spiritual, like refreshing moment in my sleep. Like, and everything is always better the next day.
Yeah.
And I think because it was drilled into my head in rehab over and over again, like nothing gets better by drinking or drugging.
That's
so
the truth.
I'm able to look at situations and be like, how, like if I was to drink right now, like, how's that going to change the situation? Like I might as well just set a time period. Like, okay, I'm going to have a pity party for myself on this for 3 days. Like when my ex-husband got remarried, that week leading up to it, I was a little like, this is kind of uncomfortable. But I was like, all right, I have through Saturday, like knowing like, oh, my kids are going to be like in the family photos with them. And, a lot of my friends or coworkers and stuff were like going to the wedding and they didn't tell me. And then I found out. And so that was like kind of it just was a very uncomfortable thing. And then the funny thing is that night that they were getting married, I was working and my house cleaner, she had cleaned my house that night and she texted me and she's like, oh, I left 2 bottles of wine in your fridge by accident. It was a gift. Like, I'll just get it next week. And I was like, oh, that's really funny that the universe, I posted it on my Instagram, the text. I was like, nice try, universe. Like,
I'm not falling for
leaving those 2 bottles. And I came home and I put them in the cabinet. So I was like, I didn't want to open my own fridge and see wine in there.
Yeah,
would I live in a house that had a bar? I mean, I don't know, maybe like it would depend. It's not going to be in my current situation, but I didn't see it. I don't like keep alcohol for guests in the house or anything. Right. I mean, I trust myself that I'm not, because like I love my sober life, but you recognize those urges. And then, so you think like, all right.
I really like, I have zero desire to drink. If I
don't ever crave it ever.
Yeah, me either. And if I'm ever really like in a bad place or emotional or whatever, like I'm going to turn to food for sure. Like I'm not going alcohol anymore. Alcohol doesn't fascinate me. It tried to kill me and make it look like an accident.
I
like,
also
I'm
meditate.
just not hanging out.
Meditation is a huge coping skill for me. I always feel better after I do that, and
I
or
journal.
Walk on the beach or something.
I journal too, which is a big one for me. Just to journal, like free flow thought, not edit anything. Because I feel like oftentimes, especially for me as a life coach, I feel like oftentimes even when my clients are talking to me and they're going through stuff, they still edit. They still edit how they speak about things they want to minimize. And when you journal, it really can just be free flow. Right. Like you can get so much out. You can burn it after. Be so honest. Yeah. You can be so honest. I mean, I only live with my dog and he can't read. So, so far, so good. All right. Last question, because I know you have to go back to work. What is your favorite thing about being a sober person?
I think just having real moments with people and being able to remember everything and really be present for stuff and to show up for people in my life and not flake out on them and remember their birthday and have my mom say like, you're such a sweet, you're back to your sweet self. Like that's so nice of you. Like to remember, like I'm so much better at my job. Everything is better. I'm healthier.
I love that you said that too, because it's like being thoughtful.
Yeah,
I'm
mindful.
really thoughtful and I like being thoughtful. Like if somebody crosses my mind, like I will text you and send a heart, and everybody knows getting my little heart. It just means I was thinking about you, but taking the time to do that, like being mindful, because I know that makes somebody else feel good. Like I will take the minute to do that.
Yeah. And that's just really no more drama, just waking up and remembering what was said the night before.
I couldn't even imagine how drama-free my life would be one day. Like I could have never guessed. It would have been as just smooth sailing and comfortable and just as good as it is, as
very
a sober
calm.
person.
I mean, I just remember being like so up and down before and spastic, and maybe that's what people equate with like the boring, because there's no big highs or lows anymore. But I don't care. It's just like a smooth ride, like on a lazy river.
And I have so much appreciation for that, because it is easier. And it's easier. Like I don't want super high highs and super low lows. Right. I want to be even, and I want to feel good and confident in myself and my ability to deal with life on life's terms.
For sure.
Instead of having to escape
empowering.
It's super empowering. Yeah. I always say that being alcoholic is the greatest thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of it.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to discuss my past, because that was my past, but it made me who I am. Like, I'm so grateful that I did have that past life. And I mean, whatever, it was, I would say I had a 15-year successful party career, lots of fun moments in there. And who cares if I made an ass out of myself at certain times, or many, many times, but that's not me. And I can't wait till I have 15 years sober, till my sober time, outlasts my drinking time.
Yes, I'm getting there. So I just turned 13 in January. And I think my really solid drinking career was 13 years, like 20 to 33. I got sober at 33.
Oh, yeah.
So I think I'm about to surpass that. It's so crazy to think of.
Congrats. I love your story too. And thanks for doing the pod. I would love to have a podcast one day to be able to do this. I mean, I love talking about this topic and being able to share with people that recovery is possible.
Yeah.
Because I never thought that I could do anything without being under the influence.
Yeah. Yeah, I was the same way. I never thought I would want to either. I never thought I would want to not be under the influence.
Right. Everything was more fun. Like
everything. My idea of fun is definitely different now, but I'm almost 47. I think that helps too.
Right. I always say I skew older because I'm a mom. I'm in like a high profile like job where we have to do like serious subjects on like city council and the police and and all of that. And sober, I'm like, I want to go to bed early.
Yes. Because I want to get up early and I want to have a really good life and I want to have everything I want. And I didn't even know what I wanted when I was drunk.
Right.
I had no direction.
Yeah.
It's so nice. Well, thank you so much for doing this with me, Courtney. I appreciate you being so open. I love that. And I'm sure the listeners are loving this story too. For you guys out there, don't forget to join us on the Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/Addiction Unlimited. And we get into a lot more detail and conversation about the podcast and other things. I post videos over there and all that good stuff. So don't forget to join us there. I hope you guys are having a great day and I will see you next week.
You've reached the end of another great episode of the Addiction Unlimited podcast. Candid and honest conversation about addiction and recovery. Be sure to visit us at addictionunlimited.com to join the conversation and access show notes and links to everything we talked about. Love this episode? Please take 30 seconds to subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes to help us improve and give you the information you want. Thanks for listening. See you next week.